Good morning, Atlanta. Thanks for joining me for the next hour. Glad to have you here. Good morning, Vicki Locke.
Good morning.
And Alfie. How's everybody today?
Doing good, sir. Doing good.
Fantastic.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we're glad to have you with us. Remember, if you miss any part of this radio show, you can go to my website, entinstitute.com, and listen to it in its entirety. In fact, you can listen to different segments commercial free. But glad to have you here on this Saturday. You know, a lot going on out there in healthcare. But as far as updates, I tell you, the VA thing seems to continue to spiral out of control. Have you read much about this, Vicki?
It's so sad what's happening.
You know, it really is sad. Having trained in a VA system, most doctors do train in a VA system, not all, but I was fortunate enough to be able to be there and take care of our veterans and spend a year of training at the Atlanta VA on Claremont. And they are, unfortunately, one of the listed locations of concern in all of this debacle.
Wasn't it the second worst next to North Carolina?
North Carolina, right. And you know, the surprising thing about our VA is that they actually have had, you know, hospital suicides. And that was a big issue. But you know, a lot is going on there. I think now we have drawn a little bit of attention to it, or national media has, in some unfortunate events. So now we just look for something positive to come out of this. And the concern that I've heard from some listeners of the show is that, you know, does this reflect what healthcare is going to be for us now under the Affordable Care Act? And you know, honestly, I don't know. That's a great question, though. And so we hope to delve into some of this later on. I'm excited about our special guest this morning. We've had the privilege of talking to Dr. Louis Sullivan, who's been president and is president emeritus now of Morehouse School of Medicine, and is former secretary of Health and Human Services under President Bush. We're glad to have you on the show this morning, Dr. Sullivan.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be with you.
Well, having been Secretary of Health and Human Services, what do you think about this VA issue now? I don't, you know, I want to put a positive spin on it, but it's hard to tell.
I agree with you. It's a most unfortunate situation, but the upside is this is correctable. I think it's a combination of things that have happened here. Most people who are in the system and are receiving services will tell you they're getting high-quality services. What appears to be the problem is that the VA did not anticipate or prepare for the magnitude of the services required by several things. Our aging population of veterans who need more services, the veterans who are alive today from Afghanistan and Iraq because of advances in battlefield injury techniques where soldiers are saved who in previous wars would have died. So we have a larger load on the VA, but they did not expand their capacity in terms of number of health professionals, number of hospitals, clinics, et cetera. So it seems to be a problem of primarily of access, capacity of the system. The doctors and the facilities in the system function well, but it really is getting into the system, which seems to be the problem. That can be corrected, but it requires expanding our health professions education programs, not only for doctors but other health professionals, expanding the hospitals and the VA clinics, as well as looking at private facilities serving veterans as well. That can be a good short-term way to address this problem.
And did they just not anticipate the number? I mean, you would think with the beginning of the Iraq War, way back, the first one, that, oh, well, we know we're going to have increased utilization because we have more enlisted people who are going to need services. You would think that that would have been a natural.
Yes, I agree. And it really is time for federal officials, not only within the VA system, but the administration and Congress. Funds need to be appropriated. Planning needs to be done because this is a problem that won't be fixed overnight. It takes years to train health professionals, also to expand facilities. That's why the question of having access to private health facilities for veterans really is one short-term measure that can be used to address the problem immediately while the expansion of the capacity of the VA system is underway.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. My dad was a veteran and a user of the VA system, mainly for hearing aids, which, by the way, they do a phenomenal job with. If you have hearing loss and you're associated with the VA, it is excellent, excellent care, great quality equipment as well. So the Gallups family has been very happy with the VA, and I'm appreciative of the VA for my medical training as well. It's been a great experience. I think people need to think outside the box to try to help solve these problems, these long waits. That's been at the forefront of all the bad news. People are dying waiting on medical care.
Oh, I agree. What exists now, frankly, is our failure as a country to live up to the compact we have with our young people. You go and serve. We owe you care for injuries that you may have. So that really is a sense of urgency that we have to address this, because this hurts our young people and hurts the country in the long run.
Oh, indeed, indeed. Well, I'm glad to have you here. We were talking last about your memoirs, your autobiography. We got into some personal stories that were just really emotional to me about how you grew up. And I think, obviously, your experiences shaped what you believe and how you see the future, and things we learn as children guide our decisions as adults. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to go back to your book, and I want to talk more about how you came to be Health and Human Services Secretary in particular. So we finished up last time talking about your childhood. So. And about going into medicine and all your experiences. So how did you wind up at HHS?
Well, that really, I wish I could say that I had planned from early on to become Secretary of Health and Human Services. That certainly was not the case.
Yeah, it hasn't hit my radar. I wouldn't have thought about it.
Right. When I went off to medical school, my vision was to return to Georgia to be a general physician practicing in a rural community. But along the way, I learned a lot more about medicine in medical school than I knew before. I learned about fields I had never heard of, and I ended up becoming a hematologist, a blood specialist. And not only that, I ended up as a teacher and researcher at several medical schools, Harvard, Seton Hall, and Boston University, because I had learned so much during my training years in medicine. So I really... Fortunately, with the training, education I had from Morehouse College and then Boston University, I was doing well as a hematology researcher. But during the beginning in the mid-'50s, the United States underwent a period of expansion of medical education, as you know, with 47 new medical schools that opened between 1956 and 1981. One of those was Morehouse School of Medicine, the only predominantly black medical school of those 47 new schools that opened during that time. We as a country double our capacity for training physicians, from 8,000 doctors graduating every year from 80 medical schools in 1956 to 17,000 doctors graduating from 127 medical schools by 1981. The first building we constructed for the medical school, we had a dedication in July of 1982, and Vice President George Herbert Walker Bush was our speaker. That's when I met him. He came, he was well received. We had many of the black leaders who were there getting their pictures taken with him, Andy Young, John Lewis,
Sure.
Ed McIntyre, Mayor of Augusta, and others. And we hit it off. We had a great ceremony, and 2 weeks later he called me and asked me to go with him to Africa. So that really was the beginning of a relationship that really led to my becoming Secretary of Health and Human Services.
Wow, that's great. That's great. In fact, I want to delve into that more when we come back. So stay tuned. You're listening to Doc Talk with Dr. Jeffrey Gallups on Talk Radio 640 WGST.